Appreciate you clicking on this review. I just got back from watching Longlegs. And with Longlegs, we follow Maika Monroe, who plays an FBI agent, Lee Harker, who is trying to hunt down a serial killer known as Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage. Throughout the course of the film, she'll do anything and everything in her path to decode his messages in hopes to stop him from murdering again. And that's all pretty much. If I get any spoilers, you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. If you're someone who hasn't heard about Longlegs by now, well, good for you, because this film has had an amazing marketing campaign. You know how I know it was amazing? Most of the showings for this movie in my area, and what I've heard from my other movie mutuals around the US, it's also being sold out. The word has somehow spread about this movie as possibly the scariest film of 2024. And those are kind of big words, because as a horror fan, I'm willing to tell you, 2024 so far has been kind of a disappointing year for horror movies. We are now over halfway into the year, and I really wouldn't say there's that many standout hits. There's a couple of good ones, don't get me wrong, but I think for the most part, this time last year, we had way more hits on our hands, a lot more memorable movies. So with that kind of in mind, I was definitely going into Longlegs thinking, all right, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the horror movie that's probably gonna end up at the top of my list, meet the expectations and hype that was surrounding it, because it wasn't just the early buzz and praises saying, Nicolas Cage is so horrific in this movie. I have nightmares. Possibly a masterpiece. It was just that cryptic marketing that Neon had that really intrigued me. So I'm in my packed theater, sitting down, excited to watch this thing. I experienced it. Man, I don't know if I'm going to be screaming to the high heavens like I see a lot of people on this film. Now, don't get me wrong, there is actually a lot to love about this movie, and I'm going to dive into those things, because if you were to tell me, yo, Chris, this is the best horror movie of this year, I love this movie, I don't think I'd argue with you that much. But first, let me get into the things I loved about this movie. For one, the cinematography and atmosphere of this film is impeccable. It is filled with dread and just this creepy, eerie vibe. For the first half of this movie, I was feeling really unsettled. I had that scary feeling. With this movie, they kind of really exaggerate the sound design. So any little thud on the table, footsteps, opening a door, turning on a light, it's kind of cranked up to 10. And with the movie having a lot of silent moments, all those little exaggerated sounds, I feel really help with the horror in the film. Along with the score, music and sound I think is so vital in a horror movie, especially when it just depends on imagery to frighten you, because this movie does have a lot of frightening imagery. And while I still might hold myself back from saying it's the scariest movie of this year, it's got scares. I mean, even right now, walking into my home, coming up to my little studio room to record this review, I was carefully looking at my doorways, opening my doors, making sure nothing. I was truly feeling like, all right, Longlegs ain't in here, is he? And I think that's always something great that a horror movie can accomplish, is giving you that unsettling feeling even when you come back into your house and really perking up your ears in bed going, did I hear something? Are those footsteps? And that's the kind of feeling that'll leave you once this movie's over. Along with that, Nicolas Cage. He's been talked about a lot in this movie, and even in the trailers and marketing, they're really hiding this weird face they gave him. And oh my God, it's an unsettling face for sure. We all know Nicolas Cage is a great actor, and when he sets his mind to whatever character he plays, he's gonna give it his all, and he's hamming it up here. Sometimes it feels like it's a little unbalanced with the tone of the movie, but with the prosthetic work and dialogue Nicolas Cage was given, if that was a man who walked up to me at the supermarket, I'd be running to my car. Maika Monroe, who's easily become a new scream queen, just appearing in so many wonderful horror films, from It Follows, The Guest, Watcher, all horror films I've really enjoyed her in, and here is no different. She's a really smart FBI agent, but she's socially awkward. She can't really have conversations like a regular person, and she doesn't always seem comfortable in the setting she's put in. But the path she goes on in this movie in trying to uncover these codes that Longlegs is leaving behind, the steps she takes to try and solve the mystery, all of that I was hooked in on. I really am a sucker for cat and mouse kind of movies where it's this cop trying to stop this killer, let's go. And for about half or 40% of the movie, it is that cat and mouse game. Police officer trying to stop this killer. Maybe the cop gets ahead of the game, but the serial killer's 2 steps ahead, or he knew all along, or you're laid right into his trap. That kind of stuff I just dig. But then the movie continues on, slightly subverts expectations, goes in a direction I was not expecting, which could always be fun. But that is now where I fall into some of my negatives in this movie. When it came to performances, visuals, sound, eerie, creepy horror vibes, it was all there. It was hitting on all cylinders, man. But to me, it was the story in here that I thought really lacked and brought the movie down. And story to me is really important. That is your backbone of the movie, the thing that connects everything together. And I just felt there is a lot of it that falls apart once you think about it a little. There's definitely elements of the story, like I said, the first half, that was really intriguing me. And it felt like the movie was really building up to something, because it does have a bit of a slower pace, which is not going to be for everybody. Slow paced movies, you know, some people just don't have that attention span. I don't mind it as long as there's that payoff towards the end or it builds up to something satisfying. And to me, although I really applaud the movie for doing something different, subverting my expectations and where the direction of it goes, I just was not a fan of where it led to. And it's going to be kind of hard to get into specifically because a lot of it involves spoilers, and I obviously don't want to spoil this movie for you. But dancing around those spoilers, for one, I needed more Nicolas Cage in this movie. He creates such a frightening, really terrifying figure, and also has me so intrigued with his methods, his code, or his motivation for doing what he does. I'm like, I wanted to dive fully into that, and there's not a lot of Nicolas Cage in here. And a negative I had that I guess will be more personal to me, and maybe it might not bother you as much, there is a part of this movie where it stops feeling grounded, where it no longer is realistic. That's as much as I'll say about that. And when it dives into those unrealistic factors and throw in those elements, movie was just losing me, man. There wasn't much explanation about it. It really peeps into the third act, and it feels like it's kind of just rushed through. Lot of unanswered questions, and you know, this isn't the kind of movie that spoon feeds you along the way, and I didn't need it to be a spoon-fed movie, but there's so many unanswered things, or things that just stop making sense when everything is explained and it's revealed how things were going down in the background, that you're just like, I'm not really satisfied with this being the outcome of the story. And I wasn't the only one. Now that the movie has finally been released to the public and people are watching screenings, the audience score is reflecting that. And I had a feeling that was going to happen, because as soon as the credits rolled on my movie, lady in front of me in the theater got up and went, "Boo!" And I think that's so funny. That goes again just to the viral marketing and the things you've been hearing about. If you were somebody who went to a sold out screening, because I know I didn't talk about this movie a lot on my channel, although I was looking forward to it. I think I only brought it up once or twice. How did you hear about this movie? Was it a viral TikTok? Was it buzz online? Call it a masterpiece? I'm curious, because like I said, there was a lot of people at my screening, and for like a neon horror movie, they usually don't sell out that much. These are kind of like under the radar horror movies that are just for the critics, the movie fanboys who just want to eat up every little movie that goes to theaters. So it was so interesting to see a large number of just like general people going. The guy sitting next to me had his 10-year-old son, and sadly, he fell asleep during the movie. But right before the movie, he was literally going, "Oh, I hope it's scary, Dad." So somehow this movie did reach on to like the general audience, and I just don't think they're gonna love it as much. There's a lot, again, to love though, if you're a fan or connoisseur of film, because all those elements I mentioned, they're important to some people. The cinematography, the acting, the music, sound design, or overall just feeling you get watching that movie, that's enough to catapult this to be someone's favorite movie of this year. And all those elements, like I said, worked for me, but it was just this story. And so, like, okay, one thing I don't think is that big of a spoiler, since it literally happens at the beginning of the movie, Maika Monroe's character is psychic. I say psychic because in like the first scene of the movie, she does this thing where she knows something she couldn't possibly know about, and they legit say, "Oh, so you're a psychic." And then never addressed again in the movie. You think that's gonna be the thing to like give her the edge, to be able to catch Longlegs, or like this ability she has, this intuition to like know where things are, although she can't explain it, will be used in the movie? Never again. It was just that first scene and then abandoned. And there's a lot of elements like that throughout the rest of the movie, where it's like they introduce a cool concept, they have an intriguing idea, surface level, touched upon, not explained. Movie's over. And that's where a lot of my confliction on this movie is coming. Now, again, I'm happy for the people that are praising it and really hyping this movie up, but I guess a lot of that hyping set me up for failure. Should have left those expectations at the door, because I just ended up liking and more appreciating the movie than something I would probably seek out and want to rewatch, or even recommend or pop it in if I have friends over and be like, "Dude, you want to watch something unsettling? Check this out." Because I'd have a feeling they'd get mad at me by the end of the movie and go, "You Why'd you make me sit through that? So when it comes to Longlegs, I'm gonna give action 1 star. This is a slow burn movie. You don't have a big chase sequence or a shootout with the cops. In fact, there's a lot of silent still moments that really help with the atmosphere. Just don't expect much action going on here. Comedy in the movie, I'm actually gonna give it 2 stars. There was this weird amount of awkward comedy, but it was intentional. It's not the kind of awkward comedy where it's like, oh, I don't think the director meant for that to be funny. No, Maika Monroe's character is a little awkward, and it produces some nice humor throughout the film, along with some of the things Nicolas Cage does that is just unsettling humor. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. This was the biggest thing holding me back, man. If the story was solid and they nailed that third act to everything they were building up, I could honestly see this being one of my favorite movies of this year. But again, so many plot holes, unanswered things, and just the unexpected elements thrown into the finale just didn't work for me. Horror in the movie, I will give it 3 stars. It creates a great unsettling vibe. Like I said, I came into my house and I was immediately scared thinking about the things I saw in the movie. Nicolas Cage did great in this role. And like the one bloody visceral scene you get, it's really eerie. So for a horror movie, it did do its job there. And suspense in the film, I'm going to give it 3 stars. Some of that slow burn and kind of taking a while to give you the answers you're looking for will test your patience with this movie. But even then, once things get revealed, at least for me, I lost a little bit of interest and my suspense didn't hold up. Casual fans into Longlegs, I'm gonna give this an F. Again, reminder to me, a casual moviegoer is a person who goes out to the theater maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I don't really think this is the kind of digestible movie for a general audience. This is just much more for someone who's consumed a lot more films. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a C+, and critically, I'm going to give it a B+. While I definitely think there's enough good things in here for me not to call this a bad movie, I do think it's slightly underwhelming and it's hard for me to recommend, which is why I suggest you wait and rent this at home.
That'll do, Don Kid. That'll do.
Again, that's just my opinion on the movie, guys. I know there's going to be so many people down in the comments going, Chris, you're crazy. I love this. This was fantastic. And I'm happy for you. But I think it's going to be more of a divisive movie that some are expecting. And while I still think you should check it out, it might just be a safer bet to see it at home instead of going out to the theater and risking a lot more money for something you might not love. But again, let me know your guys' opinions on the movie because I am curious, especially from the people who loved or felt a lot like me. Anything and everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.